Hello there everyone, this is Mark3 coming at you with a workshop upload video for From the Depths. In this case, the Project Samaru set, which will be available in the description down below if you want a workshop link for it. Now then, this one is not actually my own creation, I must stress that from the start. The Project Samaru craft was actually built by Jaxxia, and then submitted to me asking for a bit of a review and some modifications. And this is what I have come up with. Let us begin. This set includes two refitted versions and one primary version. I have had a look at them and tuned them a bit, but I have not modified the weapons payloads or anything like that because that's not what was asked of me. Basically, it was take a look and see what I could do with it. So, this graph we are looking at right now is the original Project Samaru, the version 1. I suspect it was partially built and edited without mirror mode on, because, you know, it's missing a few odd bits and pieces at random locations, which is kind of strange. However, it has full banks of torpedoes in the sides. It has flare launchers in the back, including a very odd little bouncing thing there, which I think is supposed to deflect the flares up into the air, but honestly the flares just catch on that and blow up inside the ship half the time, so that's not too good, I don't think. It's got sonars and it's got a forward-mounted torpedo rack here with two different types of torpedoes, which is kind of unusual. It also has these low-slung rapid-fire cannons for its head-on, face-to-face confrontations. Moving on. For its deck weaponry, it's got two sets of rapid-fire light autocannons, just set at the front and the back. They are quite exposed, but they are very fast-firing, so that's their main strength. And then at the sides, it's got these double-barreled cram cannons, which are of a decent size and firing rate, though they are compact, relatively cheap ones, so they're more like a supplemental weapon system than anything else. And then finally, for detection, it has a wide range of stuff, just placed here, there, and everywhere, pretty much, basically. So, you know, it can do okay. So, this is the Project Samaru version 1, unmodified. So, it's okay. It's definitely got a good shape to it. It's a capable craft, but Jaxxia was not happy with it, and I believe that is why it was put to me for review. I've just unlocked it, so let's go ahead and throttle it up. So yeah, I think the other reason Jaxxia gave it to me was actually because they wanted some modifications and they wanted to create a certain type of craft, but they weren't managing it. I believe this craft was planned from the start to be a hydrofoil, but as you can see right now, it's good at like 10 meters per second, and it's very, very sluggishly turning, but it's really struggling quite a lot to do it. So this is the Samaru version 1. Let's get back to my massively complicated fortress over here. Teleport. So there we go. The massively complex fortress, which by the way will spawn in everything upon being loaded in. So the fortress comes complete with these 3 ships. Anyway, the Mark 1 is coming back. Now on to the Mark 2. As I said, I've not messed around with weapons payload. I have, however, gone around and evened everything out, so all missing blocks have been adjusted. And I've taken off that lip to even out the craft. And apart from that, I've done a minor cosmetic change, which is I've added some indentations into the sides and I've rounded out the edges of the ship a little bit just to make it more visually distinct from the original Samaru Mark 1 over here. So as you can see, it's a bit more rounded. The turrets are actually a bit flush to the sides now. Things like that. Excuse me. And there's also this little lip on top here. So on the surface, that is all the visual changes, really. Except for the removal of the propulsion system, which has happened here, and the lip at the back. Now, the distinctive part of this Samaru V2, though, is down here. I have relocated its propulsion systems down underneath, modified them with a pair of ACBs here to help control things, and replace the advanced controllers up here, sorry, the thrust controllers that are set here with full-fledged complex controller stations. This thing is rigged for complex controller running, using U and J for forward and back, and H and K for turning. And of course, it's got these pods, and each of these pods is packed full of hydrofoils, turning this into an actual hydrofoil craft, which is what Jaxxia was after and originally asked for. So here we go. Just drop this in. Well, actually, on reflection, I'm not sure that Jaxxia asked me to do a hydrofoil conversion of this thing, but rather Jaxxia said that it was meant to be a hydrofoil from the start, so that's why I built this one. Don't know if it's actually wanted or not, but anyway, here we go. See, it pops up, it takes a few moments to stabilize itself, and then it becomes pretty steady, running along at 31, 32 meters per second, so it's a good 2.5, 3 times faster than the unmodified version. Though it's also got turning capabilities as well, and it slows down to 25, but it can also turn a lot better as well, as you can see. That's because it's got those big turning propeller ranks in the sides of the hydrofoil pods, and the main propellers themselves are also working to try and help the craft turn. So if it wasn't for the side-mounted propellers, this thing would be effectively doing tank steering, because half of its propellers would be going forward, half of them would be going back. So yeah, as you can see, it's doing its best to spin in place, just like that. So yeah, this is the Mark II. With the exception of the much higher speed and the general cosmetics, it's actually identical to the Mark I. It's just had its aesthetics changed slightly to reflect the upgrade. And I think this might have been what Jaxxia was aiming for in the first place, or something along these lines. Still, it works pretty well. It's not too bad at all. Anyway, let's get back to the last and most significant changed beastie over here. Let's redock the Mark II. Right, this is the Mark III. As soon as I can finish docking, there we go. Right, this is the Mark III. And this is actually specifically what Jaxxia asked for, a airship conversion. So I have taken this Samaru and converted it into a thrustercraft. Full-fledged thrustercraft, goes airborne, lots and lots of jets, things like that. It's a lot more power hungry because it's got a lot of jets on it to deal with the lift and things. Its weapons, of course, are the same, but yeah, it's more agile than the hydrofoil version, but it's actually almost exactly the same speed, which is a bit unexpected considering this is a thrustercraft versus a boat. But remember, this is a hydrofoil, so it's pretty fast. While this thrustercraft has not really gone overboard on the... Whoops. That was the AI list on all these various craft. So many. I've not gone overboard with the forward propulsion, so it's kind of low-scale forward propulsion on the Mark III, and that's why it's only about the same speed as the Mark II. Though that said, there's plenty of space to add more thrust to this thing to make it go faster. So you could easily achieve 50s, 60s, maybe 70s with this thrustercraft if you put enough engines on it. I'd say 50 is probably a reasonable goal. After that, you're kind of struggling, mostly. Anyway, let's go ahead. As you can see, I've rounded out the sides a bit more, and I've particularly rounded out and filled in the underside to make sure that everything is smoothed out under there. And this thing is PID stabilized, so it will self-correct and self-level and try to adjust its height to wherever it's meant to be. Which is also adjustable, by the way. I've added some extra controls to this thing. I'm going to turn that off. Right, here we go. So yeah, as you can see, lots and lots of thrust. So it can lift itself up fairly well, for the most part. It's got... it's going backwards a little bit. Yeah, that's because it went above where it was aiming to go, but now it's stabilizing. So yeah, once it gets to a certain height, it's comfortable where it is. It's just a little bit unsteady until it manages to get itself bedded in, you know? Wait, what height are we even at now? We are hovering at 48, so this is roughly where it's meant to be. Yeah, it's just bobbing back and forth a little bit. Could probably do with some more downward thrust, to be quite honest, and some more pitch control, but it's actually not too bad overall. It's just I've not added enough thrust for how heavy the craft is, basically. But enough about that. Okay, we've got thrusters all over the place on the underside. Wrong key again. Forward thrusters, these are a mixture of downward thrust and roll control thrust, and these are downward thrust and mostly pitch control at the back. These guys are pitch control, these guys are roll control, these guys are pitch control, supposedly. They don't tend to do very much, to be quite honest, so, you know. Sometimes they get a workout, sometimes not, but the craft is back heavy, so there's usually not much for them to do. And then at the back, as you can see, I have rigged up 4 big jets, 2 small jets, got a good bit of forward thrust there. And the outside jets also respond to the turning controls as well to help to control the craft. If I go around to the front, as you can see, there's some sets of jets here and here. So they're only small jets, but you have got some banks of small jets helping to turn in the opposite direction and to act as a reverse thrust as well. So this thing is capable of going backwards, just not very, very fast because it's not much propulsion that way. Still, it can go backwards, so there you go. Let's get this thing up to top altitude. And up it goes. Yeah, as you can see, again, it's a bit weak on the pitch control, but it does level out again once it gets in place. And this set of controls, by the way, is up and down on the arrow pad. Sorry, arrow keys, not the number pad. The arrow pad, you know, something. Okay? Yeah, it's trying to work out what it's doing. But this will increase its default hovering height from about 50 meters to about 150 meters. So, yes, as you can see, it's wavering around as it tries to work out what it's doing. This craft is decidedly very, very drunk. But anyway, while doing that, there's some more thruster banks in the sides of the craft here and here, and these help provide turning force for when you want to turn the craft. So as you can see, lots of thrust in all directions to help this craft turn around, and that's why it's more maneuverable than the hydrofoil version. It can just turn in place pretty well, but its main asset is definitely the lack of drag and its ability to fly around here, there and everywhere. Now if I accelerate to top speed, I'll show you top speed in just a moment. Yep, it's about the same. 32, 33. This thing caps out just past around 34 usually, so yeah, no difference speed-wise. It's just a different kind of animal, really. Now, there is one more set of things on here which I wish to mention in terms of its feature set, which I have not pointed out yet because, you know, it's not that relevant, but that's why I'm up here. This is why I increased my flying height. And that is these sets of jets on the side, and there's these indentations, sorry, not indentations, extrusions underneath, which actually house boat propellers. And there's 4 at the front and 4 at the back. Right, wrong key again. What are these for? Well, these propellers plus these higher thruster jets are actually a water start system. I took away the lifting balloons from the Mark 1, even on the Mark 2, so those are just gone. But a PID does not react very well to being below 50 meters, so it's very sluggish down there. So as a result, dropping from 150 to 50 when I hit that control, it's going to make the craft just ditch into the ocean, pretty much. So as you can see, dropping down, dropping down, dropping down, and splash. So normally, most of its jets are underwater, but the propellers lift it up enough for these jets on the sides to get clear, and then these jets give enough to get the rest of the jets clear, and then the craft will take off again by itself. So that is a water start system which will allow the craft to lift off if it does wind up in the ocean for whatever reason, and just get itself airborne again. And that's what I've done to this thing. This is the Project Samaru V3. along with the V2 and the original V1. Designed and weaponry, of course, all belongs to Jaxxia. Jaxxia made it all. All I've done is modify a version for hydrofoils and a version to a thrustercraft. And hopefully this is what I was asked for, because I was a bit confused about that. So, yeah. This has been Iron Mark 3. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you guys liked having a look at these retrofitted crafts. And I'll catch you all some other time. Let's lock you back in. Come here. Yeah, there we go. The Project Samaru set. Of course, available. Workshop link down in the description. I'll see you all some other time.